Hello and welcome back, listeners, to another impactful episode of BizBlend with me, your host Sana, where we blend business strategy, emotional intelligence, and bold mindset shifts to fuel your growth from the inside out. Well, today's conversation is going to leave you feeling empowered, clear, and ready to take unapologetic action in both your life and business. Listeners, I'm joined by Dr. Corey Winn, PT, DPT. She's a powerhouse coach consultant and the voice behind Empower Her Radio. Now, Dr. Corey isn't just a mindset expert and coach for high-achieving women listeners. She is also a seasoned doctor of physical therapy with 14 plus years specializing in neurological diseases, a nonprofit founder, and a passionate advocate for living boldly and authentically. And what I love most about Dr. Corey's work is how she speaks directly to women who are navigating career, motherhood, ambition, and self worth without sugarcoating the hustle or hiding the hard. Her story resonates because she lives it. So, whether you are building a business, juggling multiple roles, or simply ready to step more fully into your power, this episode is for you. So, with that, Dr. Corey, welcome to the show, and it is such an honor to have you with us.
That was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, lovely, lovely, Dr. Corey. Okay, so before we talk about the topic, so it's a ritual on my show that our guest will have to share their personal journey, which kind of brought them into the work or the world they are in. So, I mean, if it's okay with you, Dr. Corey, would you like to share a bit what motivated you to this world of, empowering high achieving women to help them live holistically, authentically from the inside out?
Absolutely. So, if we go way back, I tore my
Mhm.
ACL when I was 16 and decided then and there that I wanted to become a physical therapist. Prior to that, I wanted to go to vet school. I loved animals, but I wasn't really excited about that anymore. But after about 5 months of physical therapy, I knew that that was where I was supposed to be. I went to
Mhm.
PT school, I graduated, worked full time, a lot of times full time plus weekends, holidays, um, sometimes multiple jobs just with student loans and various things, and never really saw myself outside of working full time. I mean, both of my parents worked full time. That was how I grew up. I never thought anything of it. And then I had my daughter, and 12 weeks of maternity leave, she went back to or she started daycare, I went back to work full time, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm missing so much." But it wasn't really until the day that she crawled across the bathroom floor, and I was so excited. The first time I had seen her crawl, I couldn't wait to tell her daycare teacher about it, and she
Mhm.
looked at me just kind of blankly, and she said, "Oh, she did that yesterday." And
Oh.
I thought she'd punched me in the gut, and I looked
Mm.
at her and I said, "Please don't tell me those things. Please
Mhm.
don't tell me that I'm missing out on so much. I know that I am, but I don't need for you to reaffirm that for me." And
Mhm.
that was kind of when I started thinking, like, there has to be something else. I love my patients. I love what I do. Working with people with progressive neurological diseases is a huge passion of mine. Part of the reason why I founded my nonprofit, but my uncle also, I grew up with him having a spinal cord injury, and
Mhm.
I knew there was something else I had to do. So I took that first step of, well, maybe I can work part time instead. And a very long story, a little bit shorter. About 5
Mhm.
years ago, I stepped out into the entrepreneurial world because I thought, I really wanna help women with their health. I started as a health coach and
Mhm.
wanted to give myself permission to make my own rules, to work on my own time, to no longer work weekends and holidays and possibly Christmas, and
Mhm.
I was so glad to surround myself with other women who were doing the same thing. I could go on for a lot more. There's a lot more business tactics and whatnot that I'm sure we're going to talk about. But that was kind of it in a nutshell of I realized I wanted more, and the typical 9 to 5 weekends after hours just wasn't going to work for me anymore.
Oh, wow. I can relate so much to your journey, Dr. Corey. And although I am, I haven't yet enjoyed the bliss of motherhood, but the whole reason I'm into podcasting, that also full time podcasting for all of my listeners to know that I kind of took a very, very conscious, of course, a calculated decision to leave behind my 10 years of corporate journey, to spend time with my family, to be aware about, okay, what are they feeling? What exactly am I missing there? Because in the last 5 years, especially during pandemic and before pandemic, it was kind of, I was physically and mentally detached from my family, especially my parents,
Mhm.
which kind of, was the pivotal reason behind my decision. So this is really, really such an empowering, journey you shared. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Corey.
Of course.
Okay, so now let's move on to our topic. So you help powerhouse women unlock confidence and also embrace abundance. But what did these two words, power and abundance, mean to you before you fully stepped into your own? And how has that evolved over the years?
That's such a great question because when I think back to kind of where I started, power and
Mhm.
abundance were for other women. It wasn't something that I had in my life. It wasn't something that I embodied or really knew about. And all of that started after I'd been a health coach for about 4 years. We hadn't had a whole lot of business mentorship. I don't have an MBA. I don't have any experience with business or marketing. So I invested in myself and hired a coach to help me specifically with that business. And I was looking for the strategy, the marketing, the check this box and do this thing, having no idea what stepping into my power and what embodying abundance even meant. I think probably I'd heard some of those things, but what I learned, and this was about a year and a half ago, what I began to learn was that your success in life, in business, in entrepreneurial world, in sales has absolutely nothing to do with what you're doing. Okay, maybe we
Mhm.
can argue 2 to 5% is what you're doing, but the rest, 95 to 98% is who you are being. And that is the abundance piece. That is stepping into your power. So working with women to own their worth, to recognize that they do, in fact, have value to offer the world. And it may not be in, the horse with blinders on kind of a lane that they've been staying in, and to help them gain clarity on what they like, what they love, maybe what they've left behind, and then work with them to take that next step. Is the next step walking away and pivoting? I mean, in that moment, I pivoted away from that prior career. And in the last year, I've launched my own practice, my own podcast, built
Wow.
my dream house, launched this foundation, and are bringing in donors. None of those things would have happened if my mindset hadn't changed. So I look back to the woman who didn't even know what abundance and power was. And now, as someone who embodies that every day, it truly changes your life.
That is so powerful. And uh, I am loving, because I'm kind of reflecting on that evolution with you, because I have found that my own definition of success, it has radically shifted.
Yeah.
I'll be very honest, it has radically shifted. It's less about the number of hours or um, how much tired I'm feeling. Earlier there was a kind of satisfaction I used to feel. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I That means I worked worked today. But right now, the question has changed for me. It's
Yeah.
more about alignment. Even if I'm doing 1 hour of podcasting a day, but I'm gaining something. My soul is getting nourishment from that.
Yeah.
For me, that is success.
Yeah.
Great, great. Okay, so Dr. Corey, your work bridges science and soul. So, how has your background in neurological therapy shaped the way you approach mindset coaching and transformation?
This is such a great question because I grew up in a spiritual household, arguably religious household, but also a very logical, reasonable, you know, we didn't really talk about spiritual things. So when the idea of mindset and how that can change your life even came about, I thought, I don't know about that. I I all that woo, I don't know that I believe that. And yet, working with patients with Parkinson's disease and spinal cord injury and after a stroke, all we talk about all the time is neuroplasticity and retraining the brain to have your legs work again, have you be able to walk again, have you be able to remember, be able to feed yourself, all these different things. All of that is building new neural pathways. And I finally had this light bulb moment of if I can work with my patients to be able to walk again because we've created new neural pathways and our brain is plastic, then we can do the same thing with our thought. But it took
Mhm.
that correlation for me to really step in and say, "No, this is possible," and I am on board with all of it now, but I was very skeptical early on.
And of course, what I am seeing right now is there is such a hunger and curiosity for grounded yet science-backed support in the personal development space.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. We need to address this tension between the clinical world and the coaching world.
Yes. Well, and having a background in physical therapy too, it's nailed into our heads, evidence-based practice, and that we only do things that are science-backed. So, it took me a while at first to think, "Oh, I don't know about all of this." And so I
Mhm.
started doing my own research, and there's a significant amount of research out there about the mind-body connection that I just didn't know about at the time.
Mm. Oh, makes sense. Makes sense, Dr. Corey. So, what do you say to high achieving women? You know, uh, there's a kind of template that, especially if I talk with respect to women out there, that um, if you are seeking for more freedom or you're trying to set up boundaries, or maybe you are being upfront, or rather self expression, then you are not the perfect woman there. So it's a kind of a template. But what would you say to all the high achieving women out there who feel guilty for wanting more, whether that's more money, or time, or freedom, setting up boundaries, or self expression?
I love this question so much, and this is the journey that I've done over the last year. So I just completed my certification with Elise Archer's She Sells consultant team, and her entire work and all of the coaching that we do focuses around women owning their truth and learning to trust their intuition again. And we talk with clients over and over, my colleagues, my friends, that your truth, what you want, what you desire, those are green lights. Those are the direction that you're supposed to go in. They fill you with joy, gratitude, you're excited.
Yeah.
Shame and guilt and fear and anxiety have no place there. And those are emotions that you'll feel when your body is lying to you. So society may tell you, "Oh, you can't do that." But you have that burning desire, listen to it. It may have been lost potentially as you were a child and you haven't thought about that dream, but really the first question I always ask my clients is, "But what do you want?"
Mm.
Because oftentimes, especially if they have kids, but if they're married or have a partner, or they were like me and just head down, stayed in school till I was done,
Mhm.
nobody's asked them that since they were 5, 6, 7 years old to really sit back and say, "What lights your soul on fire? Now, how can we get you there?" And just opening the doorway to allow women to recognize the level of expertise that they have doesn't
Mhm.
have to stay in the box that they're in. Like you said, you left the corporate world. You
Yep.
have a significant amount of expertise that can be shared on all platforms, and you do it in the form of a podcast now.
Yep.
How cool. How amazing. And so many of us don't recognize the expertise that we have and that it can go in so many different directions.
That is absolutely empowering. Okay, now circling back to your journey, Dr. Corey, when you mentioned that you decided to go get into, test the waters out there in entrepreneurship, um, people often say that entrepreneurship, although if you look at it from outside, it looks like, yes, yeah, you have the control over your time, over your work. But entrepreneurship is, it's more difficult because you are building something from the scratch, which you are kind of spiritually, physically, and mentally, holistically attached to. It's like a baby of your own. So, um, you are a mother, you are an entrepreneur, a nonprofit founder. How do you navigate, or how do you um, um, maintain this delicate balance of ambition and softness? Sometimes there will be endless nights of stress and work, but then also you need to take rest. How do you and how do you do that? Secondly, how do you guide your clients to do the same without burnout?
I love this question so much because I was that anxiety
Mm.
riddled, burnout, stressed entrepreneur for years, making clients source and are they going to get on program? Are they not going to get on program? What are we going to do? And it all comes back down to a deep inner knowing that what
Mhm.
you're doing has purpose and you remove everything else in your life that negates that. And at
Mhm.
first, I thought, "Oh, really? Is that all?" But if you really, you're talking about the neuroplasticity and the neuroscience behind mindset and having a goal in front of you and blocking out anything and everything that is telling you that's not possible. And that may be the news, that may be friends or family, that may be something that you're reading. And you fill your mind and everything that you do every day with something that's going to help you move forward toward your goal, whether that's a podcast, that's a book, something that you're
Mhm.
reading, surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs and women on the same journey who are going to be mentors. And first and foremost, it takes with deciding, making a decision. I made the decision to launch a nonprofit, having absolutely no idea how to do it, how it was going to come to fruition, who was going to help me. I don't know anything about tax forms, any of that. But I made a decision and the how revealed itself. So you talk about too about boundaries though. And just this past weekend, I love that you asked this. I realized, my husband and I are on our phones so much, and my daughter is picking up on that and she wants to be on it and she's 9, and we had talked about moving into our new house and having a place that our devices go, and we hadn't followed through on it. So over the weekend, we created this area in our house that all of the devices go when we come home from when I pick her up from school, and that is sacred time. So The other big piece is you make a decision that aligns with your soul of what you wanna do, and then you take out everything else in your world that doesn't align with that. Now, the first thing I hear my clients say is, "Well, I can't get rid of my spouse or my parents," or and that's not what I mean. There are gonna be people in your life who maybe don't have the same philosophies that you have or have the same ambitions that you have. You can still love them. You can still want to have dinner with them. But my family is sacred, and the time that my daughter is gonna be at home living with us is finite. I mean, she's gonna launch one day and go out on her own. So, my calendar is my boundaries. I have certain times where I can do podcasts, I have certain times where I can do client calls, and I don't work outside of that. And as a coach and consultant for other women, that is so hard for us because overall we are givers. We say yes. We're people pleasers. We do too much and like you said earlier, you own that you haven't gotten any sleep. So it took a lot of focused work to say, no, this is important to me and I'm this is how I'm doing. And I'm not bending, and the clients and the donors and the people who are gonna be in my life are going to come, who are supposed to be here, and the ones who aren't, that's okay.
I agree. It's more nuanced than it looks like on the paper.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay. So before we wrap up, Dr. Corey, let's talk about action, of course. So, um, although I'm asking for three, but you can give more than that. Any simple yet powerful steps our listeners, especially all the women out there, they can take right now to scale both their business or whatever ambition or dream they have and their inner world in a sustainable, soul led way.
Absolutely. Um, First and foremost, like I said earlier, what do you want? What is your heart's deepest desire? What's the thing that lights your soul on fire and gets you excited? And that may be something that you have to journal on for a few days or sit back and write down 12 things that you think that you like and then really think about them and say, I don't really know that I like that anymore. And then secondly, how can you add more of that to your life? Is there a mentor in your space who is doing the same thing? Is there a coach who you can hire to help launch that business that they were looking for? I found out the other day that there's a grant specialist at the library. There's people everywhere, but it's making that decision. I'm going to do this and start telling people about it. And the mentors and the people to help you will come.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, learning to believe in yourself. And I want to share two different things with your audience. One
Mhm.
is my guide to my morning ritual because setting yourself up and your intentions for your day and filling your mind with things that are going to move you forward is the most important thing you can do for yourself. And now I have clients who have 5-minute morning rituals. They read one page, they meditate for just a very few minutes, and then they move on, and I have others who have 2 hours. There is no right or wrong, but it's focused time for you in the quiet to set yourself up for success. And then I also, as a She Sells consultant, we teach the 4 quadrants of quantum sales growth. And I talked a little bit earlier about what you're doing is only 2 to 5% of your overall success. The entire rest of everything else is mindset shifting, your, relationship with money, and balancing masculine and feminine energy. So we have a free training that I would also love to share with your audience. It has actionable steps that go along with that morning ritual that really helps catapult you forward.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, Dr. Corey, if our listeners would like to connect with you and get a hold of all the wonderful work and resources you are sharing, what's the best way to do that?
Of course, absolutely. So I'm on Instagram at Corey Winn DPT and LinkedIn at Corey Winn, and then just my website www.corywin.com.
Lovely. I'll have all the links and details mentioned in the show notes. And Dr. Corey, thank you. Thank you so much, first of all, for bringing your story and, of course, science and soul to this space. I mean, I'm really, really empowered. I'm feeling that, power within me because, you remind that we are allowed to want more and be enough at the same time. So that ambition
Absolutely.
can be sacred and rest can be revolutionary. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
So, to all my beautiful listeners out there, if you are listening and this conversation has lit up something up inside you as it did with me, don't ignore it. Take one step, a baby step today, whether it's setting a boundary, asking for help, or unapologetically going after your next level. Trust that you are worthy of the life you envision. And make sure to connect with Dr. Corey. Just refer to the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And if this conversation connected with you, send it to someone who needs a little reminder of their power. Until next time, stay aligned, stay curious, and keep blending brilliance with boldness. Thank you.